Just words.
Nobody cares.
For what they say is affordable.
For what they call affordable. And I'm like, yo, my man, but if you look at the metric of what we are in this entire neighborhood and in this island is low income. So broke and very broke, but not extremely broke, but just broke and very broke. And I'm like, so who is this housing affordable to who?
So then it gets into another messed
and
up stat.
the definition of affordable is inexpensive or reasonably priced in the Oxford Dictionary.
So then it gets into another messed up category because I know there was a recent study that came out that said like so before 100,000 used to be like a big deal when you made that cross that threshold for a salary, right?
Right.
Apparently everybody makes it except me now.
I know. Same.
But here's where it gets funny though. Like how much of it do you actually, what do you think 100,000 is in New York money?
No, it's 50K if that.
Not even.
30K. It's 30K?
Yeah.
100,000 if you do annually
after taxes and expenses.
After taxes and expenses, you only have the equivalent of 30K of your a year-long salary.
What's the best state that has the best?
So that means that broke people have really like then 5.
Yeah.
Wild.
Wow.
5K. That's insane.
So you start to so now what's going to end up happening to a lot of folks who are on the super broke side? They're going to start getting warehoused. Now, what happens when you start? Though history has told us this over and over again, and studies have shown, when you start putting a ton of poor people together,
Chaos.
Though automatically, people got to survive, so crime goes up.
Yeah.
Right.
So then, what comes after that?
So over policing.
And then so then all of a sudden they start because
Well, because it's crime, then the landlords stop. They divest, so they stop investing in those communities. You can't get a decent job, or you probably live like in a 2-fare zone. So that means you ain't gonna leave because there's no fucking train. You got to take 2 buses, or you got to take a bus and a train or whatever.
Liquor stores and all that shit stop popping
And
up.
so then you get all of that, and so you have divestment of the neighborhood. You can't get a good job. You're not taking care of your health.
A brand new ghetto.
And there's a brand new ghetto, and then you got to over police it. And I'm seeing that happening in the Bronx. And even though I was joking, actually, when I looked at the numbers, and I was like, yo, hold up. The eligible income for the Bronx for an apartment, then they were showing apartments for like $300-$500 studios or whatever. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So over there, they have that. But I looked up Harlem and Washington Heights, and we had this conversation on the chat. And I was like, yo, people are proving my point. There's nothing sub 80,000
That's wild.
in Manhattan. And then you go to the Bronx, and even though the person said it's apples to apples, it is not fucking apples to apples. That shit, I don't know what Palestine looks like, and I don't know what Afghanistan looks like, but there's a lot of firecrackers across that bridge, yo. And if that's what it sounds like, at least on the news, that's what fucking the Bronx is to me.
But it's also becoming, it's also becoming though a bigger issue though in the fact that, i.e. though, then what ends up happening though, this is where it gets really cute. I think I sent you the New York Times article about this.
It shows a paywall. I worked my way around it, but yes, I got to read the fucking New York Times article.
Where it gets into the fact that then we go back to the NIMBYs though, because the kids who end up I'm gonna say kids though, so I'm gonna shout out to Columbia, the Columbia
Kids, all about the kids.
The Columbia folks who live here. They all of a sudden though they get voting rights over the next affordable housing unit and who gets actually living there. So all of a sudden though now you really start getting a more segregated city because they're starting to. That's how you start basically causing more gentrification and kicking folks out.
Yeah, it's exacerbating it to a whole nth degree because when they go to these projects too, and they're like, yo, we need approval, we need support to say that we can build this new building next to you. Can you say that you're gonna do it? And we're gonna make sure that you have housing. There's gonna be affordable housing and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And our borough president, and I had a brief conversation with him, Mark Levine. We're up here in Washington Heights. Dominican, white, and there's more people, but that's all I know. and so when they're there talking about all the issues at hand and public safety and blah blah, and Mark Levine goes, the median rent in New York City is $5,000. It's probably more now, but he said as of April it's $5,000, and I was like, wait, what? And so for a 1-bedroom. And he goes, and we need to start talking about bringing more affordable housing. And everybody's like, yeah, literally, right? And I called him afterwards, and I was like, Mark, just out of curiosity, when you say affordable housing, who are you saying affordable housing for? And he goes, whoa, that's a really loaded question. And then I was like, look, I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking you because you're talking about affordable housing. And the reality is that a lot of the new developments up here are not affordable to the people within this community. So do you think we should consider having a conversation about changing the verbiage and removing affordable housing?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, that's a really good point. And then there was this white lady next to him and she goes, wait. Oh, affordable housing doesn't mean affordable, and I go, exactly my point. It does not mean affordable.
Not for the people there.
To us,
Yeah.
You know, she's an older white woman. I'm sure she got a fucking fixed income.
Right.
And so she goes, wait, that's a really good question. So what should we be calling it? And so he said we should call it targeted income housing. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I came home and I made a graph, and I was like, all right. So targeted income housing means. We didn't get into these details, him and I, but in my brain, the way I processed it, I was like, these are the people you actually want
To live in their apartment.
and to live in their apartment.
Yeah.
You want the $80,000 to $150,000 income people, so you call it targeted income housing. That introduces transparency between local government, developers, and community members.
Yeah.
But so you got targeted income housing, and then I think between 80, what was it? I created from like I think 80 to 40K. Then that should be accessible housing, meaning that people have enough money to afford
those places.
But if I call it affordable, because now we've used this term so loosely that it's so broad and subjective, because clearly the motherfucker that makes $30,000 is not gonna find what the motherfucker that makes $150,000 affordable. So I mean, in my real world,
Then you get into the other issue of like what's gonna turn how are they gonna start transporting these neighborhoods? Like is the Heights gonna be the Heights?
The Heights is no longer going to be the Heights, dude. They just dropped $500 million on where Pathmark used to be in the parking lot to build a 700 unit apartment, a development complex. And the other ones look way bigger. So I don't even know how the MTA is gonna operate up here. Period. Because 700 households right where the one train is at on that's 207.
That's
a lot of people.
But you have to remember that's if they fill them all, because then you get into the fun game of like, all right, we're paying for all these apartments. Guess what? Most of them aren't going to get filled. All of a sudden, though, now you get empty apartments. Rents have to go up to keep up. Keep up
the building running. Yeah.
But if they made the rents accessible, they can fill up the apartments.
Exactly. That's a whole different discussion. I mean,
but that's why I think it should go within that direction where it becomes law, where they